The story begins with two girls about to be assaulted by some bandits, but they are stopped when a very large knight arrives and cuts several of them in half with a single strike. He introduces himself as Ark and says he couldn't stand seeing that, so he attacked them. We then flash back to when the protagonist woke up in this world, not knowing where he was and only recognizing the equipment he was using, which actually belonged to the character he played in a game. When he fell asleep in his world while playing, he apparently ended up inside the game, and Ark is the name of his character. At first, he thinks he's dreaming, but everything feels very real. He sets out to gather information and notices how light his armor feels, despite being made of metal. Ark stops to test his abilities and, with an attack called Wyvern Slash, destroys several trees and then tests a fire spell. He finds this strange because the last classes he chose were Paladin with a Cleric subclass, so he shouldn't be able to use fire magic. With this, Ark realizes he has all the abilities of all the classes he ever used, which means he is absurdly powerful. Ark decides to explore the world but realizes he's hungry. Since he doesn't have food or money, he tries to go to the city using a portal spell called Gate, but it doesn't work, and he reappears right where he was because he can only teleport to places he's been before. After that, he starts using a short teleport that in the game made him appear where the player clicked, but here he can only appear where he's looking. Near a stream, Ark notices that the water is very realistic and removes his helmet to see his reflection, then remembers what his avatar looked like in the game, basically a skeleton. This could be bad for social interaction, as people might think Ark is a monster and end up hunting him, so he puts the helmet back on and decides to be discreet. Ark arrives in the city and observes that it looks more like a medieval world than a fantasy world. But when he reaches an alley, he finds an elf talking to a suspicious man, questioning him about a failed investigation. The presence of the elf excites Ark, as it seems even more like a fantasy world. He tries to follow the elf, but she disappears. After that, he finds a mercenaries guild and decides to get a job to earn money, but he needs a license. To do this, he must choose between animals, magical creatures, or bandits and hunt 3 of them to receive the license. Ark sets out, and the guild attendant comments to another guy at the counter that Ark must have a sick child and had no choice but to become a mercenary to earn money, which makes Ark happy, as he already has a story for himself. After hunting 2 wild boars and defeating an orc with a single blow, he puts them in a sack to deliver to the guild. However, on the way, he encounters some bandits attacking a carriage. With that, we return to what happened at the beginning, and when the bandits are about to get what they want, Ark makes a decision and appears to cut 4 of them in half. The remaining 4 flee but are caught by a powerful attack from the protagonist. The maid, named Rita, thanks Ark for saving them and introduces the noble girl named Lauren. When Rita asks if Ark works for some lord because of his armor, Ark remembers that the premise of his character was that, despite being a holy knight, he has an evil curse, which is the reason for his adventure. However, he changes the subject and goes to clean up the mess while Rita and Lauren go to change. Ark burns the bandits so that at least they become food for wild animals. But he also notices he doesn't feel guilty for having eliminated them and wonders if it's just because they were bandits. When Rita and Lauren aren't looking, Ark takes the opportunity to loot the bandits' belongings and also takes their horses, thus accompanying the 2 girls back to the city. Back at the guild, he finally receives his mercenary license, but the attendant warns him that he forgot to take the magic stone from the orc. This stone can be used to create magical items and weapons, and he should always take the magic stone when he kills a creature. The attendant also shows him the job board, but there are only small jobs there, and if Ark wants bigger jobs, he'll need to join a team of mercenaries. He's excited to finally be ready to work, and goes to an inn where he finally orders food. The protagonist looks at the magic stone, realizing this isn't just a game, and he's very excited to continue exploring. The next morning, Ark goes to a village to do his first job, which is to escort a girl named Marka to gather medicinal herbs. Flashing back, we see that he doesn't want to join a group to get bigger jobs to avoid the risk of exposing his identity. Marka is home alone with her younger sister, and when Ark arrives, she gets scared, but soon they head to the forest. On the way, after being questioned by Ark, Marka reveals she was in a hurry because she needs to take advantage while her mother isn't home. Basically, Marka's father died, and he was in charge of gathering medicinal herbs, so she wants to do this to help her mother. While gathering herbs, the girl shows she has a lot of knowledge on the subject, but they're interrupted by something in a bush. When Ark goes to check, he finds a strange creature that looks like a multi-tailed fox. The creature has a leg wound, so Ark uses a healing spell to help, and after being healed, the creature wants to accompany the knight. Marka suggests he name the creature, and Ark calls it Panta because of the shape of its tail. Back in the village, some villagers are talking about a beast that was seen in the forest, and when Marka's mother hears about it, she discovers her daughter isn't home. Meanwhile, Marka and Ark reach a tree in the middle of the forest, but suddenly, a huge monster appears behind the girl. With that, Ark saves her with his teleportation, and the monster breathes a poisonous mist in their direction, which the protagonist easily dodges. He defends against a few more attacks from the creature using his sword, and the basilisk gets irritated, then tries to petrify Ark with its gaze. But the knight uses the sacred shield to create a protective barrier. After a few more attacks from the monster, Ark uses a very powerful ability that cuts the basilisk in half and defeats the creature. After the battle, Marka is happy and says they'll have a celebration in the village because of the monster's defeat, but Ark asks her to keep it a secret. The knight also notices a ring on the basilisk's leg, which then disappears. Just as they're about to return, Ark finds a boar and decides to take the animal as a gift for the village. Back there, Ark says he only wants the tusks and the magic stone from the creature and tells the villagers to share the meat. Marka finds her mother and apologizes, but she doesn't care, just relieved her daughter is safe. Ark apologizes for taking Marka to the forest without consulting her and asks the mother not to scold the girl, so she thanks him. Before Ark leaves, Marka's younger sister gives him a flower crown as a farewell gift, which makes him happy. At night in the forest, some soldiers manage to kill a basilisk with great difficulty. Two men analyze the casualty report and also find the body of another basilisk near the tree. With that, they comment that the monster seems to have been killed with a single blow by one person, concluding that the individual must be absurdly strong. In the end, Ark comments to Panta that he intends to continue being discreet, but is willing to take on some more challenging jobs. The next day in the forest, the elf Ark saw earlier is walking until she finds the protagonist emerging from a cave. Rewinding a bit, we see Ark defeating some bandits in that cave because of a mission, where he finds treasures and some open cages. Meanwhile, in Triton's office, he receives news that the assassination attempt on Lauren, daughter of Lord Louviart, failed and that the bandits were stopped by a passing mercenary. It's also revealed that the basilisks in the forest were placed there by Triton, and we discover he secretly supports Prince Dakars, who aims to assist in the invasion of his own kingdom. Meanwhile, Louviart supports another prince named Sect. Finally, Triton tells his servant to send some goods, and be careful not to attract the attention of Princess Uriarna. Far away, near the cave, the elf attacks Ark, thinking she's one of the bandits who survived. He dodges all the attacks, and upon seeing who it is, he realizes there has been a misunderstanding. However, she stops attacking when she sees Panta on the knight's shoulder and says that he is a spirit creature, known for being very cautious and rarely approaching humans. With this, the elf understands that Ark is not a bandit and explains that the bandits in the cave were kidnapping elves to sell them as slaves. Ark offers his help, but she refuses because this is an issue for the elves to handle. However, after she leaves, Ark realizes this is like a game event, which makes him very excited. The next day, Ark goes with Pana to the forest and sees some bandits with elf children. Seeing this, he is about to act, but the elf from before appears out of nowhere, taking down two bandits. When they see that she is also an elf, they plan to capture her, but they stand no chance. Seeing this, Triton's son threatens to harm the children if she doesn't surrender. With this, the elf warrior stands still, and one of the bandits removes her cloak. However, Ark decides to help and appears behind the boy, striking him with a blow so powerful that it sends him flying. With Ark's help, the elf quickly finishes off the remaining bandits, and they free the children. She notices they are wearing mana-devouring collars, which prevent them from using spirit magic, so they couldn't escape. Ark uses magic to remove the collars and also heals one of the girl's wounds, making the elf realize that the protagonist is not an ordinary knight. She then calls a bird, a magical creature capable of recording voices and transmitting messages, and sends it to call other elves to take the children away. The elf acknowledges that Ark is a different kind of human and finally introduces herself as Ariane, thanking him for his help. The bird returns with a message for Ariane, who needs to carry out a rescue in Diento, so she hires Ark as a mercenary to help with this mission. After accepting, Ark uses portal magic to go with Ariane to the city, where they meet an elf colleague named Danka. After a brief conversation, Danka says that the missing elves are in a property near a leisure district. Since it's busy, they decide to wait until night to invade, and since it's still early, Ark uses his free time and the money he got from the bandits' belongings to buy food, hiding in an alley so no one sees his face. When the time comes, Ark, Ariane, and Danka approach the mission site but don't realize someone is following them. Ark uses dimensional movement to reach the roof of the property, impressing the elves. After breaking into the place, the group finds dead people in the rooms and understands that someone else had already invaded the place, so they split up to search for the children. In another room, Ark finds more people in that state until suddenly someone attacks him. Finally, the person who was following them appears and starts fighting Ark. She is a ninja with cat ears, but stops attacking when she sees that Ark is accompanied by Ponta. The ninja concludes that he is there to rescue the elf children, so as an apology, she gives him a scroll. She tells him that the children are trapped in the basement, and before leaving, warns that there are 2 more elves being held in the noble's mansion. Ark opens the scroll, which is actually a contract for the purchase of elf slaves, so Danka and Ariane read the document and find the name of the Lord of Diento on the paper. To avoid complicating things by talking about the ninja, Ark lies that he obtained the information and contract after interrogating one of the bandits. At this point, a few more enemies appear, but Ariane dispatches them with a fire attack from her sword. The group finally rescues the children and leaves the place using Ark's portal, also removing their collars, leaving Danka impressed. Ark and Ariane go to the mansion to rescue the remaining elves, while Danka stays with the children to take them home. They break into the mansion but end up making noise and alerting the guards. However, Ark manages to disguise himself as a statue. When Triton is about to harm the elves, his servant interrupts him to warn about the intruders, but Ark and Ariane arrive, breaking through the wall. She knocks Triton down with a low blow, and while she's beating him, Ark finds a secret room. The captured elves also take their revenge on Triton, and Ariane handles the guards who just arrived. She tells them to meet Danka while Ark explores the secret room. There's a lot of gold inside, and the protagonist tricks Ariane with the excuse that if they take all the money, this evil organization will take a long time to re-establish. Suddenly, several explosions begin to occur in the palace, and they don't know who's behind it, so Ark uses the portal to escape with Ariane and the treasure. Outside, Ariane pays Ark for his help, although it's very little compared to all the gold he took. Then, she invites him to the elf village to help with rescues in other places, which makes Ark very excited to explore the elf village. Ariane says he will need the elder's permission, but she knows one she can trust. However, the protagonist would need to show his face, so he reveals the truth to Ariane, and she promises not to attack him. Then, for the first time, Ark shows his true face to someone, and when she asks about it, he reveals that he doesn't know and says he simply appeared in this world like that. He comments that it must be a curse, but obviously tells this whole story because he can't just say he ended up in another world looking like a game character. Ariane assumes he's not undead because he could use healing powers, and he's accompanied by Ponta. She promises that the secret will be safe among the elves, and if it's a curse, the elders should be able to help somehow. The next day, in Olaf, the capital of the Kingdom of Roden, King Carlin tells his children about Triton and asks if they knew anything about what happened. Prince Sect responds that he doesn't know but mentions rumors that the responsible parties are elves because Triton broke the agreement by capturing elves to sell to the Eastern Empire. The second prince, Dakars, asks if his brother has any proof, but Sect asks if Dakars is defending Triton. The second prince gets angry, and the king decides that what happened in Diento should be investigated and asks for Uriarna's opinion, who reveals that she heard these rumors and is concerned that it could break the treaty with the elves. With this, she suggests talking to the elves about it, so the king orders the princess to go to Lambert and speak with them. The next day, in the castle, Uriarna talks to her servant and reveals that she knows her brother Dakars is involved in the elf trade, but she wants to focus more on the diplomatic mission for now. Ark and Ariane arrive at the elf village. In front of the entrance gate, Ariane requests an audience with the elder and tells Ark to wait there. After a while, the elf returns and invites him in. They go to the tree where Elder Dylan and his wife Glenys live. At this moment, it's revealed that these are Ariane's parents. The elder thanks Ark for his help, and the knight explains what happened in Diento. Then Dylan says this information should be taken to the elders' meeting along with a purchase contract that Ark brought as proof. Glenys brings dinner after the conversation, and the elves reassure him, saying they already know about his condition. So Ark feels more comfortable and removes his helmet to eat with everyone. The next day, Dylan and Ariane go to Maple for the elders' meeting, where the chief elder named Brian reveals that he knows what they will talk about. Meanwhile, Glenys shows the village to Ark and asks to train with him. At the meeting, after the reports about Triton, the elders discuss what they should do. Since it's been 600 years since the last war, few humans know the history, unlike the elves who live for a long time. So, after a discussion about whether to declare war or not, the elders decide to continue the operations to free other elves while observing the reaction of the Kingdom of Roden. Meanwhile, Glenys reveals to Ark that she was the one who trained Ariane, and that elves like her are blessed with physical gifts. Then the two begin a fight so she can test Ark's strength and see if she can trust him to protect her daughter. Glenys is very fast and lands several attacks, easily knocking Ark down, which makes him realize that status isn't everything. After a while, Ark manages to surprise his opponent with a dimensional move, appearing behind her, but even then, Glenys lands a hit on him. After the training, Ark goes to take a bath, experiencing a bathtub in this world for the first time. Ariane also returns from her trip to take a bath, but is startled to see the skeleton in the bathtub, causing an embarrassing situation. Later, Ariane's father tells her what was decided at the meeting. His daughter will continue investigating the names on the contract, and he wants to hire Ark to help her with the mission, but he doesn't have much to pay, so he decided to share information as payment. The elder tells Ark that there is a spring in the Dragonoid territory that can break any curse, where a rare tree grows where the Dragon Lord lives. Before sleeping, Ark wonders if this is really a curse because, in reality, he made up that story. However, when Ark tests a magic to remove the curse from his arm, it briefly turns back to flesh but quickly disappears after a few seconds. Ark tries a few more times, but it always reverts to just bone, meaning the curse cannot be broken that way. The next day, Ark and Ariane set out to reach the location where the imprisoned elves are as quickly as possible, choosing the shortest, yet most dangerous, path. The following morning, Princess Uriarna and her servant leave Olaf for Lambert, but it seems someone is watching them from the shadows. Meanwhile, Ark and Ariane are traversing the forest, and the elf comments that haunted wolf tails can be used to make bridal veils, reminding her that her sister is about to get married. Suddenly, they are attacked by some wolves, but the beasts disappear when attacked. Only then does Ark remember that these wolves can create multiple illusions of themselves, which they use to deceive adventurers. Ark finds the alpha wolf of the pack and tries to hit the creature, but the wolf jumps, and then the knight sees a ring on the wolf's heel, similar to the basilisk from before. In a quick move, Ark cuts the ring with his sword, and the beasts stop attacking and leave when the ring disappears. The protagonist tells Ariane about the ring, and they try to understand what it is, but then the elf collects the tails of the wolves they eliminated to make a gift for her sister. Meanwhile, Uriarna is attacked in the carriage, and at the same time, Ponta seems to sense something and runs off. Some bandits appear and kill the servant and the princess until Ponta arrives and bumps into one of their faces. When he pulls the creature from his face with the intention of killing it, Ark appears from behind and breaks the enemy's arm. Ark wonders if he should revive the noble girl since, in a game, this would probably be rewarded, but in this world, the outcome might be different. At that moment, the haunted wolves appear to help the protagonist, and Ark joins them to eliminate the criminals. So, when the fight ends, the monsters leave, and as no one is watching, Ark uses magic to revive the princess. He tries to revive the others, but the magic only works on some. as depending on the severity of the wound and how long the person has been dead, it may be more effective. Upon waking up, the princess believes what happened was a miracle from God and makes a motivational speech to the soldiers, who become much more eager to continue the journey. After that, he and Ponta return to Ariane and reach the royal capital. They pass by a street fight where a single girl defeats several delinquents at once, and she approaches the travelers. Ark recognizes that this is the ninja from before, and the girl praises his work in freeing the elves. Ark tells Ariane that it was actually the girl who got that slave purchase contract. With this, she introduces herself as Cheom and says she is one of the 6 ninjas of the Jinshin clan. They stop to talk at an inn, and after introducing themselves, she asks for help to free other members of her people. Cheom offers information about the whereabouts of the people listed in the contract as payment. Since Ark was already hired to help the elves, he asks Ariane's opinion, and as both are fighting to free their own people, the elf agrees to help Cheom. In the castle, Dekars is very angry with the news that Yuriarna has not been killed, and also with the people who are disrupting the slave trade. Afraid that his sister's saviors will attack him, the prince leaves to hide in a safe place. Meanwhile, Cheom walks with Ark and Ariane, and she talks about the history of her clan. Cheom says the great founder was a human named Hanzo who lived during the war 600 years ago, making the protagonist suspect he was Hattori Hanzo. He took in her people and opposed the injustices of the empire, thus founding the Jinshin clan. After some walking, they finally arrive at the largest slave market in the capital. Cheom is willing to save as many people as possible, but knows not everyone will survive because there will be several attacks in other places at the same time. However, they will focus where there are the most slaves, which will likely involve the royal guard. But Ark warns her that he can use teleportation, and with that, he can help reduce the number of casualties. Night falls, and they prepare for the attack. Ark puts on a strange mask and meets Gomen, a muscular ninja who seems to attack the protagonist, but it's just a strange way for the two fools to greet each other. Ark goes with Gomen to attack the market from the front. Meanwhile, Cheom and Ariane will invade from the rear. As they approach the gate, the guards try to act, but Gomen uses a ninjutsu that creates large stone spikes on his shoulder and then advances with Ark, causing them to break down the gate. Inside, they find several other soldiers, and a fight begins. On the other side, Ariane and Cheom hear the shouting and understand that this is the distraction. The guards near the gate try to attack the invaders, but Ark easily defeats several soldiers. Gomen uses a ninjutsu that turns his body into metal and protects himself from attacks, and Ark uses a powerful magic, forcing the soldiers to call for reinforcements. Finally, Gomen uses another ninjutsu, and together with a powerful magic from Ark, the spells are enhanced as a combined attack, causing the place to collapse on them. In his hideout, Dekars receives news of the market attack and orders more soldiers to be sent to the location. Meanwhile, as all the soldiers go to face Ark and Gomen, Ariane and Cheom manage to invade the site, and other ninjas also invade other markets simultaneously. The girls reach a locked door that Cheom easily opens with a tool. The guards inside continue heading to the main gate, but some encounter Ponta, who was with the girls. The ninja quickly uses a water ninjutsu and takes down the enemies without trouble. Other soldiers come from the other side, and this time Ariane eliminates them using fire magic. Without wasting more time, they reach the slave cells and free them. At that moment, more guards arrive at the location. So Ariane takes over while Cheom leads the prisoners out of the prison. Gomen and Ark rise from the rubble, and the girl soon greets them, saying they gathered everyone in a hall. With this, Gomen stays there to face the soldiers who are about to arrive, while the other three go to free more prisoners. Everything is going well until Cheom finds a cell with people from her clan dead. The other prisoners warn that the enemies didn't value the sick and wounded. The scene is sad, but the group needs to continue with the plan. Thus, Ark uses the portal to take the prisoners out of the market and then returns to help Gomen in the battle. They combine ninjutsu with magic and again defeat all the soldiers with great ease. After completing the mission, the group cremates the dead prisoners, and the spirits are elevated to the sky. Dekars is furious with everything that is happening, and while complaining to General Cetrian, the prince is taken by surprise as the subordinate strikes him in the heart. Then, Sect arrives at the location, revealing that Cetrian was working for him as a double agent, and now they will use this confusion in the market to justify the death of the second prince. It is also revealed that they know about the assassination attempt on Yuriarna, and Sect plans to announce that she was killed by Dakars, while in reality, he was the one who sent the assassins, whereas his brother only sent the wolves. The next day, in Lambert, Yuriarna finally completes her journey and meets with her older sister, who reveals that the news of her being killed by Dakars has already spread. Yuriarna doesn't know if the attack was orchestrated by Dakars or Sect, but she asks that her survival be kept secret. Without Sect knowing the situation, Yuriarna can act in secret and speak with the elves soon. Meanwhile, Ark and Ariane continue their journey after Chiom tells them that the people on the contract list and the remaining enslaved elves are all in the Revlon Empire. In the capital of Revlon, Emperor Domitianus is informed about the deaths of Dakars and Yuriarna, and it is revealed that the monster rings were supplied by the Emperor himself. On their way to the Revlon Empire, they pass through a desert full of wyverns, and the presence of these monsters makes the Whispering Bird afraid to travel to send messages. So Ark uses a powerful lightning spell to scare the wyverns away. At this point, it seems someone was watching the travelers. Then Ariane and Ark stop at a tavern to review the path they will take. The elf is a bit hesitant and explains that in the Empire, it is not illegal to capture elves, making the journey more dangerous for her. Suddenly, an elf with glasses appears to talk to them. He saw what Ark did in the desert and introduces himself as Karsi. Despite being an elf, he seems to be well known and have a good relationship with all the humans in that place. Karsi further explains that he has lived in this human city for 10 years and makes a living studying the biology of monsters. He asks them to help capture some monsters for his studies and, as payment, will give them a map of the Empire and a book with information about the monsters. Ariane hesitates, but Ark really wants the book about the monsters, so they end up accepting the job. The next day, they meet Karsi in the desert. The group travels by cart and carries some goblin heads to use as bait for the sandworms. After some traveling, Ariane notices that the back of the cart with the goblins has disappeared, and suddenly, a giant sandworm appears. Knowing that the worm's weakness is fire, the elf uses a fire attack, but it has no effect, and the monster almost hits her. However, Ark appears to help her. The knight grabs the worm by the mouth, and with his absurd strength, pulls the worm from the sand and throws it away. When the creature falls to the ground, it is shown that there was a ring embedded in its skin, and with the worm defeated, Karsi hands over the book and map. He then has a conversation with Ariane about humans. He believes that one day the two races will live in peace with each other. The elf also tells about a story he heard from a port city in Roden, where the lord of the city married an elf. She was going to be sold as a slave, but the human freed her, and the two fell in love. After the conversation, Ark and Ariane continue their journey. Sometime later, they arrive in Revlon and act discreetly to gather information, discovering that monsters have appeared on the city's border and that many people have disappeared lately. Before meeting with Ariane, Ark saves a woman from some men, and she hugs him to thank him, which makes Ariane very jealous. Later, it is shown that the bandits who disturbed the woman work for Fumba, a barbarian involved with the Emperor and the rings found on the creatures. They wanted to take the woman to serve as food for the monsters, but since they couldn't, the villain uses his own men as food. At night, Ark and Ariane arrive at the supposed location where the elves are being held, and apparently, Ariane has more precise information than Ark, but since she's mad at him, she says nothing. They enter stealthily, and the place seems empty, but they find a secret passage to the basement. After walking a bit and facing some guards, they find a very large place where Fumba appears. When he sees Ariane, he tells her to kill Ark, and the elf immediately attacks her companion. He tries to use disenchantment, but it doesn't work, and after a few more attempts, Ark realizes there is something on Ariane's hood. Ponta leaps forward and pulls out an imp, the creature that was confusing the elf with illusions in her head. Thus, Ark defeats the monster, and Ariane faints. Fumba reveals he can control the monsters, and on his belt, the protagonist sees some rings similar to those seen on the previous creatures. Fumba summons a giant tiger to face Ark, but first, the knight asks about the elves brought to this place 4 months ago. With this, The villain says that most of them were used for magical experiments and laughs as he says the others served as food for his animals. This makes Ark furious, so with a single strike, he cuts off the giant tiger's head, and even though Fumba brings several other monsters, the protagonist defeats them all with ease. However, an ogre was about to hit Ariane, but Chiom appeared and saved her. When Fumba tries to summon the other creatures, the ninja says her partners have already exterminated them. Suddenly, the place begins to collapse, and another of Fumba's creatures awakens. Outside, the creature breaks free, and Ark sees that the monster is a Hydra. The giant creature attacks the protagonist's group, and Fumba believes they are dead, so he sends the Hydra to the city to feed. As the Hydra moves away, we see that Ark defended the attack with his shield, so Ariane and Chiom decide to defeat Fumba while the protagonist will face the giant monster. From afar, soldiers in the city spot the Hydra and prepare for battle, but suddenly, Ark strikes the monster's eye. The creature tries to attack Ark, but he moves quickly and hits its chest with his shield. However, even after cutting off some of its heads, it manages to regenerate. Realizing this creature is too powerful, the knight uses a summoning spell that brings forth a giant demon to face the monster. Meanwhile, Ariane and Chiom find Fumba, who boasts about controlling the Hydra, but Ariane says he is weak and tries to compensate for that with the power of other beings. Fumba gets angry, and the fight begins, but he stands no chance against the two. And when Chiom attacks his back, he loses control of the Hydra, as it was the magical tattoos that allowed him to control the monsters. Fumba says that now the Hydra is out of control and will kill everyone, but Ariane is unfazed because she trusts Ark, so she conjures the magical flames of her sword and puts an end to the villain. On the other hand, the battle between the demon and the Hydra has begun, and it proves to be more powerful than the Hydra. Then, with Ark's help, who throws the monster upward, the demon finishes it with an extremely powerful fire strike. After that, the day breaks, and Ark goes to his companions, warning that his monster will disappear in about a minute. Then the Whispering Bird appears with the news that Princess Uriarna has met with one of the elf elders, Lord Fangas. At the meeting with the elder, the princess promises that the Kingdom of Roden will take responsibility for breaking the pact with the elves and comments that if they support her as queen, she will create an alliance with the elves, which the elder accepts. Meanwhile, Ark's group continues, and Ariane comments that she is surprised to hear that there are humans willing to take such action for the elves, which reminds her of Karsi's words, who apparently was more right than she imagined. In Roden, Sect receives the news that Uriarna is alive, and that she is gaining popular support, making her the favorite to succeed the throne. In Revlon, the Emperor is informed about the death of the Hydra and Fumba, which isn't very important to him since he still has the rings he needs, but he is concerned about someone being capable of killing the Hydra. With this, we return to the protagonist and his group, where Chiom learns about Ark's curse, and they head toward their next journey.